It's just a coincidence that around 1200 BC, the first high culture was developed in the Americas. So Moses had married a black woman. Now what's interesting is this particular pharaoh, Ramesses II, who he was supposed to have had his confrontation with, he also married an African or a Nubian woman. Not that he wasn't an African himself, but he married a woman that was from Nubia, a woman named Nefertari, which means more beautiful than beautiful. And she was his favorite wife. She was the most important woman in the Mediterranean world. And initially he married her for a treaty with the Nubians, because at this time he was waging battles against the powers in the north, the Hittites, the Assyrians, and those who wanted to sack Egypt. As an alliance, he married this daughter of the Pharaoh of Nubia for an alliance, but he began to love her more than any of his wives. And so she became the most important woman in the Mediterranean world, this Nubian woman. In fact, the breadth of the Egyptian army was made up of Nubians from the south. In fact, the very name of the armies that they assigned to the armies in Egypt meant Nubian. There were so many, they were so numerous. So those brothers who were fighting the Assyrians, who were fighting the Hittites, composed mainly of Nubians from the south, brought in by this very important woman. So here you have Moses doing no different than the man he was supposed to have his confrontation with, marrying this sister from the south. So this gives you an idea that at this time, around 1200 BC, the Mediterranean is just flooded with Nubians, with blacks from the south, from Egypt and Nubia, fighting wars against Assyrians, sailing up and down. All the way they found that the Egyptians were mining for tin in Ireland, in the British Isles. There's an inscription of Taharka in Spain they found, looking for metals to fight these people who had these iron metals. So they were navigating all over the place, looking for metals, looking for things to help them fight the barbarians from the north, as they called them. So you can see she was so important. She's the only queen, the first person in the world, long before the Taj Mahal, the first woman to have an entire temple built in her honor by the pharaoh himself. Ramesses standing side by side his Nubian queen Nefertari. So Nubians all over the place. You can see the boy King Tutankhamun as he's waging battle against the Assyrians. You can see the Assyrians here as they're falling down, being trampled by the horses, as the brothers from the south, from Nubia and Egypt, are coming and fighting off the barbarians who are coming in from the north. This is important because I'm just painting the picture here. So we'll stop here and we'll change over right quick and finish this thing up. Mediterranean world, approximately the time of 1200 BC. Because one of the positions that Van Sertima takes is that it most probably was the 25th dynastic period that was responsible for the first high culture in the Americas. But I take basically the position that it could have been a period even earlier because of the events leading up to that. You can see here the Nubians were coming in already by the time of Ramesses II, composing the majority, a large part of the Kemetic armies, and fighting throughout the Mediterranean world. So they were already there at this particular date. So they can't hold the difference in the time of which they usually assign to the Nubian dates of between 700 and no more than 800 BC for the Nubian dynasty, which is the 25th dynasty. So they try to say that the high culture in the Americas makes an appearance in America several hundred years before the Nubians come to power in Egypt. So this is important to show that the Nubians were already in power in Egypt at this particular date. Can everybody see that? Is that clear? So this is the Gulf Coast. This is just a few kilometers down from the pyramidal site, which we call La Venta. And so sometime about 1200 BC, a little more, a little less, a foreign people came on this particular coastline. All the scholars who have studied America agree on this, that a foreign people came by way of the waters. As you can see, the jungle comes right up to the waters here. And in the midst of this particular jungle, they built the first pyramid in America. They all agree with this. The problem is, who were these foreigners? Now, of course, as we saw all these pictures here when you came in here, to have their, if they would have their way as scholars, you have to throw all this out. You can't look at this and determine. They want more facts. Okay. So here it is. This is the first pyramid in America, approximately 100 feet in height. Just made an appearance on the Gulf Coast. 1200 BC, no antecedents, no origin and evolution of pyramid buildings, nowhere. There were no mastaba tombs like there was in Egypt. A single tier, which became 2 tiers, which became 3 tiers, which became a step pyramid, which they put limestone to make a true pyramid, made it built a bent pyramid, a square pyramid, a round pyramid. There was no natural origin and evolution of pyramid building here in America. Just one day, 1200 BC, this pyramid showed up on the Gulf Coast. And so as I arrived just over a week ago in La Venta, a couple of weeks ago anyway, right in the airport, Villa Hermosa, they have a mirror on the wall, and they show the La Venta complex facing the waters. Not only did they build it right here near the coast, but it's actually facing the waters from which these people had come. At what point does possibility become probability? We want to add these things up. It doesn't take anything but really just basic math or something like this. Those currents we saw are coming right over to the coast. You got all these faces right here, and you have this pyramid here, and nowhere else in the world are people building pyramids but from where these currents are coming from. And so here's a model of the pyramid as they estimated it appeared when it was actually in use. And you can see clearly it was a true pyramid truncated without a capstone on it. So here you had a true pyramid and a step pyramid and a ceremonial center with land use classification, all intact, all in one spot with no origin and evolution right there on the coast. Just raising issues here. So this particular civilization, La Venta, on the coast, the Gulf Coast of Mexico, is the parent civilization of the Mayas, the parent civilization of the Zapotecs, the Mixtecs, the Tonatecs, the Toltecs, all the Tecs, all of them, and the Mayas, they all go back to this parent civilization. All the scholars agree on that. The Mayan scripts have been deciphered to some extent, and they now know that there were Olmec glyphs that predated the Mayan glyphs, in which the Mayans got their glyphs from. The calendar of the Maya and the Aztec, all the text goes back to the Olmec calendars. And so right in your hotels there in Mexico, they don't hide it from you. La Venta, this site dating back to 1200 BC, brought to light some of the most provocative finds in all of Mexico. Enormous sculpted basalt heads with distinctly Negroid features that still puzzle archaeologists to this day. Because they know that there was a galley slaves. Could only be galley slaves. They couldn't be gods and priests. The heads are attributed to the Olmecs, often called the spark civilization of Mesoamerica, the igniters of a creative blossoming that spreads to other cultures. However, the unique style and physical features of the Olmec heads were never imitated and remain a mystery. But see, this is one of the most important points. These heads were never imitated. That means that when they came here, it was a unique experience, a unique situation. These were unique people with unique features who came in and flourished and then disappeared. Showing you clearly that this is a foreign people. The Mayas don't look like this. The Aztecs don't look like this. The Toltecs don't look like this. None of them look like this. This is a foreign incursion in Mexico. And so here you can see the pyramid in La Venta, and this was a very rare picture I was able to find. It actually shows the layout of La Venta, and it actually shows the place where they had the colossal heads. A colossal head here, you can see 3 at the top. In front of the pyramid, they found at this first pyramid, yes, some of these heads facing the waters of the currents that are coming from a land that you would anticipate having these features. And one thing I want you to notice also is they had burials here. You can see a sarcophagus at the top. And they also did a test of this particular mound, and they now believe that there's a tomb inside this pyramid, in the center of this pyramid at La Venta. So you can't say it was just a temple. This particular pyramid was a tomb, just like it was done in Kemet. And so here's one of the faces that was found in that particular area, again.